They've called and have complained about the reasons why individual bondholders should not be part of it. Yesterday we had, a 65-year-old man, which many of you have shared, ask the question, what becomes of me? Now that I am 65, how do I wait for 15 more years when I am not guaranteed life those 15 years? You've heard the lady make the point that she even fears losing the husband because he wouldn't say anything at home. In fact, she says they cannot pay their ward's school fees because these children who are currently home, they're going to use the bonds to pay for the school fees of those children.
School fees that have gone up.
Exactly. And that leads me to a very important issue here. I have in front of me the Ghana Financial Stability Fund. Okay? That says that the fund is being established with a target size of 15 billion to be provided by the government of Ghana and its development partners. And the fund will provide liquidity to financial institutions that participate fully in the debt exchange. All financial institutions, banks, SDIs, pension schemes, collective investment schemes, fund managers, brokers, dealers, insurance firms that fully participate in the debt exchange can access the Ghana Financial Stability Fund for augmented liquidity support with effect from the date of the completion of the debt exchange. And we're told the fund will be managed by the Bank of Ghana under unique operational guidelines being developed. What happens to me, the individual bondholder? Yeah. So today, that woman whose wards are staying home because they can't pay the fees, what liquidity support is available to her? So yes, we're talking about all institutions, and we've named them. But these individual bondholders that we want to, include them and are inviting them to participate in this, what happens to them? That's the question I am asking and I am not getting answers to. If today, because I am on retirement and I was expecting to use the proceeds from these bonds to pay for my medical bills, and I cannot pay for my medical bills, what happens to me? What mechanism has government put in place to cushion me, the poor Ghanaian retiree? That poor pensioner who earns 500 Ghana cedis, who took his lump sum and put it in government of Ghana bonds. How do we expect that person to cope? In these times, we're talking about inflation at 54%. And that is national average.
Yeah.
We need to always make that clarification. That is national average calculated based on weight. But your inflation may differ. If you go to the pumps or if you go to the supermarket, your inflation may differ. So what is government's plan for these persons? Or as always, we didn't think about them. And then after the fact, we will come back and say we have provisions for them. Look at even the new bond, document, for instance. Government reserves the right to even change it, the coupon rate and everything. So what we are talking about today is not cast in stone. Government can still vary them to your advantage or your disadvantage. And if what we have seen is anything to go by, then there's a lot of things to be concerned about. Look, Raymond, government intends to spend some 204 billion Ghana cedis in 2023. Of that amount, 27 billion Ghana cedis is expected to be used for capital investment or capital infrastructure. Our people are faced with a challenge of losing their investment. 8 billion Ghana cedis, individual bonds. We are not prepared to sacrifice for them. What government thinks it must do is to continue engaging in procurement that we have known is the bane of this country. Procurement that gives us lots of problems because a lot of our corrupt practices are found in the procurement. And so, as always, we have money to put in procurement. We have said non-critical infrastructure will not. There's nothing critical than the life of that person whom you pretend to be serving. There's nothing critical than that man who doesn't know what his future is going to be today because of the uncertainty that you have put that person in. There's nothing critical than that person that you promised a better life, and that even though you have not given him that better life, you want to make that person worse off. This is definitely not what you promised. This is definitely not what the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, you campaigned on. You campaigned on making Ghana a haven. In fact, you promised 18 months Ghana will be a haven. This is not what we are seeing. But let's even put that aside. We have said, if people don't sign up, they say you are on your own. Government may default. And you introduce a clause, may default, when the evidence suggests that you are prepared to default. How can you take your own citizens through this kind of torture? And as if that is not enough, government has adopted an approach where it doesn't engage. Today you have seen it, Raymond. People are calling on government to engage. And government is consistently silent on all of this. They have told you, even in the one that they issued in the latter part of December, that when there's any change of information, government will, through releases, inform you. Why is it so difficult for government to sit down and engage with people? Look, we have planned to actually spend some over 20 billion on government transfers, some of which would go to the district assemblies, which will be used for infrastructural development. The evidence in this country suggests that, but for the 98 MPs calling for the resignation of Ken Ofori-Atta, District Assembly's Common Fund was in arrears. They had not been paid. We can make sacrifices in this state for the collective good of others. And at this point in time, it doesn't matter who is affected. All of us, in the long run, become affected by government's approach to this. So, I am making a very simple point. This cannot expire on Monday. This thing should not expire on Monday. An extension is needed and government must come to the table. Enough of the I don't care attitude. Enough of the carefree attitude. We've called for it. We've said, look, at this point in time, heads should have rolled long ago because of where we find ourselves. Let's say nobody listened to us. But if you didn't listen to us, how on earth again do you take a posturing as if all is well in this country? That today people are calling on government and nobody is willing to speak to anybody. Nobody is willing to speak to. People are asking questions and they don't even get answers to these questions. Why are we doing this to the very people whom we promised that we were going to make life better for? I hear the stories of pensioners who are struggling to make ends living, who are struggling to make a living, and the little money they have, government wants to take that money away from them. This cannot happen in Ghana 2023. Let us exempt individual bondholders like we exempted pension funds. Let them get their investments and continue with their lives. We can do that because we have indicated that we want to spend 27 billion. There's nothing as critical than the lives of the people of your country.